Welcome back to Capitol Review. I'm Mark Hall. FEMA has denied funding for a small town in western Maryland that was ravaged by floods earlier this year. It's been more than 2 months since flooding hit Westernport, Maryland. The town of about 1,800 are still feeling the impacts. Among the damage, the town's library, which was covered in mud, the town's school, which needed to be evacuated by students on the day of the storm, and many homes and businesses near Main Street. FEMA denied nearly $16 million to make repairs across Allegheny and Garrett counties. And joining Capitol Review is Maryland Congresswoman McClain Delaney, who represents District 6. That includes Westernport. Congresswoman, thank you so very much for joining us.
I'm thrilled to be here, and I always think that it's great to be on the local news so people know what's going on.
Well, let's talk about Western Maryland. Obviously, a lot of devastation out there, a lot of flooding. FEMA denied relief. Many say that's an unprecedented move. Your reaction?
Well, I'm really disappointed that the president denied the FEMA relief in Allegheny County. And, you know, I represent the 6th District of Maryland, which is, you know, up county, Montgomery County, all the way to the Pennsylvania and West Virginia line. But, you know, this was devastating. I was there in May when it first happened with the governor, been in close contact, and there was just summer later saying outright denial. And I'm not saying it's political, but our governor definitely is. And I think the hard part is that these people, you know, it is devastating out there, and they're not going to be able to recover without adequate resources. I did submit a letter to Secretary Noem at Homeland and ask for a revaluation. Apparently, she is very open to speaking with members of Congress. And I will say, just 5 miles over the West Virginia line, they did receive their FEMA funding. And this is the same community and the same storm. So hopefully we'll be able to push back and get that funding. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult for these communities.
You know, you use the words "these people." Doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. We're talking about devastation. Even though Maryland is considered a blue state, because it is, in Western Maryland, it's pretty much red.
I always say I'm in a purple district, but very few purple people. Yes, it is very blue, it's very red, but it doesn't matter. I represent everyone in my district, Republican, Democrat, Independent, I've got their back. And so I'm really advocating for them. And I have to tell you, one of the Republican mayors said this is like a gut punch, because they feel that, you know, they are Americans like everyone else. And no matter what your zip code, you should be able to depend on the U.S. government to come when there's an emergency, when there's a fire, whether there's a flood, when there's devastation. And I will tell you, when I showed up with the governor, it was what relief should look like. There were local, federal, and state delegations coming together at the Westport Cafe, and that's what real recovery looks like, leveraging, providing for your community, irrespective of party. It's people over politics. You talk about you've been to the region twice. I mean, just describe what you've seen. I've been to the region multiple times, but I think the hard part is that these storms, you know, when they hover over the mountains, there's just torrential rain. And, you know, I remember speaking to the superintendent of the local school in Westernport, and it was really interesting, and it's really important. NOAA, our National Weather Service, all these early warning systems that we continue to fund them, and we give the resources, because they got the flood alert in the early afternoon in May. It was around 1:30, and they said, you know, we should release these students. And then we're going to walk home, we're going school buses. And the first responders and the local law enforcement said, you know what, let's keep them in the building. Within 45 minutes, the floodwaters had risen 9 feet. They went from the first to the second to the third floor, and over 200 kids were evacuated by boat. Not one loss of life, but it shows that you need to have the emergency warning systems and then know what to do when you get those warnings. Unfortunately, that didn't happen in Texas. I remember Governor Moore disappointed that Maryland was not going to receive support from FEMA, but he did also say that the money was going to come from Maryland. Are you still optimistic that maybe some help can still come from? I'm going to push back, because I think if there's enough public outcry, I mean, we cannot deny our Democratic governors when they request funding and give it to our Republican governors. And I think across this country, people think that is wrong. And so I am going to speak with Secretary Noem, and hopefully I will get a reversal. But, you know, the issue is that, you know, many of these government cuts, whether it's, you know, SNAP, Medicaid, FEMA, freezes of nonprofit nonprofit funds, you know, they're being shifted to the states, and our states can only handle so much, and then there's going to be a drop-off in services and how we really help, you know, everyday Americans in disaster, but also those who are most vulnerable. And I think that's the problem right now. There's a tsunami of cuts coming at Western Maryland and at rural America, and we have to get in front of it.
So again, we know that right now FEMA is not going to provide assistance to Western Maryland.
As of now.
You talked about the devastation. What's next for those people out there in that great part of the state?
You know, I think working with them, I asked them all to reach out to our office. If anyone is listening that's in, you know, Western Maryland, Rep. McClain Delaney at mail.house.gov. But, you know, I think a lot of the private insurance companies will be working with, you know, small businesses and homes that are insured. Unfortunately, many rentals and many people don't have insurance. So I think it's really trying to partner them with nonprofits, with what state resources. And USDA does have some assistance for farmers and rural communities. So looking at some of the other avenues with, you know, different agency funding streams, and we're happy to help with that. But let's be real, this is going to be a difficult recovery unless FEMA steps in. But this is, you know, the other thing I'm going to say is that I am the lone Marylander on the Ag Committee. And so I am really concerned about all of these resources of agencies like I said, like NOAA and the Emergency Weather Service, USDA, but all of the other types of agencies that really contribute to our rural communities. And of course, I represent 35,000 government workers in the 6th District, including NIST, NIH, Fort Detrick, and our Fire Academy. I do think letters help. Our Fire Academy had all of their classes canceled, like there's not classes that are needed for our firefighters and our first responders. And I led a letter you know, really protesting it, and I was able to get that the Fire Academy classes reinstated. So I do think it helps when you lift it up and you push back with public opinion.